Hello and welcome to another session of The Change Exchange, where we talk about life and we talk about change and about decisions and when life happens to you. And our guest today, Sia Metane,
How you doing?
much better known, I think, as Slikour,
Yes.
Slikour the rap artist.
Yes, that's what I survived. That was my pipeline to get into everything else. Yes.
How did you start rapping?
When I was 9 years old, um, I just literally found this thing where I was from. We stay in Katlehong, so my mother's a nurse, and there's not a lot of aspiration. So when I looked at like these black guys who so-called who rapped, who had so much conviction, and they were so proud, and they'd speak against the system, and it was something that I'd never seen before. And if I had to make a choice of what type of black person I wanted to be, would it be, and that was obviously still during the apartheid era, would it be like a submissive black, or because of unfortunately how our elders were kind of in an environment like that where they had to be submissive, or would it be that black who was just like vocal, who just literally had this like who just had this opinion about things, and so
Take
much
his
love
life in his
and
hands.
so much love for themselves, through music, because rap was very conscious at that time. Also, a lot of it was. I wanted to be that black, and besides just the rap art, the art form, that black was an attractive thing to me.
And you were barely 15 when you borrowed money and you built a studio in your
Yeah,
parents' backyard.
yeah, I had that. I was on a show called Jam Ali. I was actually one of the, funny enough, I introduced this thing called freestyle on that show, and they gave me some money, which was my capital. I won the competition. That was my capital. I bought some studio equipment. My brother used to work at IT. One of my friends, Level, his father was helped us with some equipment, and that's how we literally like kind of got a studio together in the 90s, before home studios were even a thing.
So that was the beginning of Skwatta Camp.
Just, when they say you speak things, it's one thing, but when you do things, that was the action of like creating a property that said that this is what we really want to do. If I look back, with all the other kids, if you want to define yourself, that literally started defining what I really wanted to do. And over time it then attracted Skwatta Camp, because at that time every kid from my hood who literally said they're into music would walk into my mother's house, and my mother would be like, man, my spoons better not be missing, nothing. But my mother allowed me to kind of like welcome. I mean, almost 100 kids maybe would literally, in a year, would literally walk into my mother's house, going up the stairs and just like going to record, and that was it.
Did you ever consider getting a real job with a
Um,
salary?
I don't even know what that is till this day. I kind of realized that like my whole life was based on what does my mind create. And that also made me realize that the whole world, even a job, it was someone's idea, and at that point it was just an idea, and it was creative and it was bold, and then it was successful, but then that boldness and that creativity becomes a boring job in 50 or 60 or 70 years. So I realized that like I'm one of those guys who creates things, and all the time I try to get into an environment, into someone else's idea, who was bold and an entrepreneur and a groundbreaker. When they started, think about the first guys that started the banks. Think about now, like someone's like going, oh, it's a boring job. But there's some innovation and something groundbreaking about the guy who
In
first
the
started
origin.
it. Yeah.
Yes.
So I realized that like my gut keeps on pushing me away from environments where people have created, because it's almost like my calling has asked me to create. Because like I said, I mean, I was barely 15, 16. I already like had a studio in my hood, in my house, and it was no commercialness to it. It was just a studio. So that's what
When
it
did
is.
you realize that I can actually make a living out of this?
I never ever realized. I never realized that. You see, here's the thing though. Happiness is the biggest key to survival. Happiness almost literally makes you find a way to live, you know. So when this thing worked, this music thing, someone opened the door and said, "You guys are great at this. I'm gonna manage you." Sbu, that time, was the guy who manages, the guy called Sbu from our hood. He kind of opened up that door, and then like we had the right songs, and the songs literally like people were reacting to the songs, and we were still selling our music off the boot, you know. We won our first music award, a South African music award, as independent artists, but to show that we weren't polished like every other artist, and our music was in every store, you know. I was Julius Malema before Julius, you know. I literally jumped on stage and I said, if our music is not, because we were still, that time Musica was obviously one of the biggest chain stores, and I think there was a reliable music, and we always used to fight to get our music there, and they wanted to get the major, the Sony, the BMGs, the Polygrams, when those things still existed. They wanted it, well, Sony still does. They wanted to get those artists in because they're from established labels and not get independent artists. So I got on stage when we won that summer award, and I said, if our music is not in any one of these stores, make sure you burn them. And it was a pretty crazy statement. And 3 months later, Gallo signed us. And how the universe worked, we literally had the right song for the whole country to like, because we had songs for rap guys to like, you know, and rap was still niche. But then it's crazy how the universe worked. We just had the song that the whole country would love.
Which was what?
It was called Umoya. Till this day, the song is still played in clubs, and kids because we do the math, we go, man, maybe that kid was like maybe 6 years old when that song. But kids who were 6 years old when that song was big are literally the kids that are going to clubs now, and they singing the words word to word for this song till this day. So I am convinced that like my job was to actually create the job, you know. So even when I tried, I did work for a company called Xerox, you know, they call themselves Bytes now. I used to take, I was called a PC engineer. I don't know what I was called, but all I did, I used to connect printers to machines, and I'd literally go with these big reams of printed papers at Wits, because one of their clients was Wits, and I'd have all these papers, and I'd go to the 7th floor dropping all the stuff, and I had a nightmare that if I stayed here, I was gonna be poor. So what happened is, for real, I literally had a nightmare. So what happened is that I had at that time, my father was also into taxis. So he was struggling with these taxis, and I was still making money off rap while I was working at Xerox. So I'm this famous guy who literally like catches a cab from home, literally gets off the taxis like in Paris Street or whatever, North, get off the taxis in North, take a walk to like Doornfontein, because that's where Xerox literally had the contract with there. And one time I got jacked. Well, someone literally took my phone, you know. I was this famous guy going through all this, but I wasn't comfortable with spending money. So my father was struggling with these taxis, and I said, okay, cool, let's do a deal. That was my first business deal, by the way. I said, okay, I'll buy you a taxi because the taxi's old, but this is what you're going to do. You're going to handle the streets, I'm going to handle the money. Now, my father's another cat who only finished school in Standard 1. Well, I don't know if that's finished, but maybe school finished him in Standard 1, because it was like a whole 40-kilometer walk to school from Mpumalanga. So he never finished school, but he had these taxis, but the money management wasn't there. So I said, okay, you do the streets, I do the money.
How old were you?
I was maybe 21 or 22 at that time, you know. And then, you know, we grew that to 4, 5, 6 taxis. I mean, I think right from that period, we've almost had like taxis that have come and gone,
That
but
means
like close to 10.
Confidence, trust in yourself.
Well, you
to
know,
say to your dad, I can do this better than you can.
it wasn't even that. It was just like, now remember, I'm buying a taxi and I still don't have a car. So I'm catching a taxi to work, but I don't have a car. But in my head, I'm like, if they only knew, I got one too. You know what I mean? So it was that type of thing. So now I had 2 taxis, but I was still working at Xerox. I mean, I was earning like 3,000 or whatever the case be that time. But you know, the taxis are making money on the side.
Yeah.
You know, the rapping is making money on the side. So I've got all this passive money, and I'm working this day-to-day job. So I could be there. But then this nightmare comes and goes. And literally, I feel, you know, I used to sleep at the corner at work sometimes. It's like, that means I never liked my job. But I used to sleep when it was quiet, you know. And I had this nightmare that, yo, if you stay here, Well, that's what the nightmare
This is the future.
The nightmare literally had me older sleeping there, you know. And then I went to my boss at that time, a guy called Solly, and they were very supportive. They knew that like my passion's music, so they'd allow me to do my little music things on the side at the office. And I went to Solly. I said, Solly, I think it's time for me to go.
It was good, but this is the end.
Thank you, Solly. It was time because you know also I was struggling to get a job, so they also kind of gave me a chance, you know, and it was before the rap has picked up. So I was struggling, and so you know I also had to be respectful of that in order to be cognizant of that. So I went in.
How did Bada Bing start?
So we already like already when we started our recording stuff before we even signed, we already like was selling tapes under a label called Bada Bing, you know. So by the time that like we were signed by Katlehong, we were one of the few guys to go, oh no, we already got a company, you know, and you could deal with the company and this. So with the company ended up becoming a management company, and then we also started like finding talent over time, yeah.
And ventilation?
So ventilation, interestingly enough, I just always had like sort of like the studio, like having a home studio at that time was like unheard of, you know.
You had to go professional. So
yeah.
Go somewhere, pay.
Yeah. You know, I mean, how dare you think of that? But we had a home studio, and you had to record in the toilet to do your vocals. Okay. So once again, ventilation. What we did, I told my partner at that time, I said, you know, we do these events, and people come to our parties, and they get packed up, and like we kind of cool, you know. I think we can actually make brands cool. And Level that time was like, let's just do the music. Let's just do the music. So I had like a thing of, it's now common where brands are mixing with music or whatever the case be. So I kept on telling Level that, look, we're making this work, you know, in music. Let's just get a brand in. So, you know, we started sending our ideas to various like companies, you know. We sent it to Coke, we sent it to Ever, and it was ideas. And then, you know, someone from Coke, like Sprite, literally a lady called Kosi, picked it up and said, why you keep sending us ideas? We don't do ideas, we do campaigns, right? I was like, okay, what is that? And it's like, well, okay, cool.
How do I package this?
Yeah, what is, not even shoot package, it's far-fetched. We don't package, we just do, okay? And we'll see how it ends up, you know what I mean? So anyway, like, Kosi literally goes, boom, I saw we got a campaign, it's a hip hop and a music campaign, so can you guys manage the music? So she kind of almost gives us a role. So because we got the music role, now I'm sitting at what they call the integrated marketing, whatever that like Coke has. And this is when I started learning, target market, consumer. I start getting all my marketing like cues lingo. From there and my lingo, and then I go, so what do they mean when they say niche? So now I'm learning my marketing like here in this Coca-Cola IMC, and as I learn my marketing, we become almost like the first almost rap outfit to literally organically find a connect with the brand, not through an agency. It's the brand. Kosi literally pioneered that to go, okay, cool. These are the guys we're going to work with. They in the world. You know, right now brands are trying to do that, but like Kosi pioneered that. We basically make the brand grow by 13 million with regards to PR, you know, and they grew by 26% in the market. And their basketball never did well. They literally did well only because of the music the music campaign we kind of pitched to them, you know, and made and executed also. And that was my window into the marketing world. And no marketing degree, just always like gut. Like rapping is, I don't rap. I just loved rapping and my gut, and I don't know how to play songs, whatever the case be. I just was able to kind of create one of the biggest songs in rap, you know. And then here I am, 4 or 5 years later. I'm not working with Level now. I'm a partner at like a TBWA. TBWA is experiential agency. All it was just gut. It was a sense, you know, of that. This is what I need to do. So I've always.
What are you saying to a youngster out there?
Well, I mean,
how does one find that way? I mean, I'm sure every road is
everybody's
individual,
got their own,
every path is individual.
Yeah.
But what is the principle coming out of it?
Well, I mean,
if anything,
it's a simple principle, you know. Just like when I started, I said someone was bold and said, like, you know, maybe if we could put a couple of bricks together, we can make a house. And then someone gave it a name. Said, well, maybe that's architecture. And then a designer drew it and then said, oh, maybe that's architecture, maybe that's construction, maybe. All these are ideas. We're in a world that's created by ideas, and the only thing that keeps the world bubbling is ideas. And who creates ideas is people. So you got to believe that like you just as important as every other person, and your idea counts. And you go, and but most importantly, you will fight for your idea to count. I mean, that is the core of it. Fight for your idea to count, because if
don't
you don't
let it go if the first person you approach just
I mean,
it.
and it's not even I always go, it's not even people. It's sometimes the world is not ready for your idea, but the world was ready for you. So if the world is ready for you, that means that you got to be patient. You know what I mean? So make your idea count, and that's what we got to fight for. Everybody's got ideas, but people aren't fighting for their ideas to count. And that's my thing right now. I mean, so literally, like just as an example, like 3-4 years later, I've never studied marketing. I'm a director and a partner in this agency. I mean, I'm just a rap guy, right? And then it doesn't speak to my heart. And then me and my partners, we decided that, listen, we should go our separate ways. Now, I built this website called Slikours Life. It's a music website. We create content, and I was not making money, but I've saved up some money. I'm saying I'm gonna make this thing count.
Your videos are amazing.
Thank you.
They really hook you in.
Yeah. So I say I'm gonna make this thing count. Right now, Slikours Life is in the top 1,000 websites in the country. Right. Second to that, like I was speaking to a big marketing agency, one of the biggest marketing agencies, and they said it's the first time they see a person in black entertainment who's not inside the entertainment industry actually turning a business of a website. So even the business that we've created of Slikours Life, we found angles in the marketing, in the digital marketing space. So I literally taught myself digital, and then I literally understood content, and then I married those worlds together. And like right now, what we're doing with influencers, what we're doing with content, what we're doing with that, it's all of the fact that I keep telling guys that I never stop doing what I love, and it's music.
What's the website address?
It's Slikours on Life, Slikour on Life, life.co.za.
Yeah, it's really worth it. Go and find it. It's really worth it. I want to ask you something else. There was one single that really stirred things up, and that was Blacks Are Fools, 2010. Where did that come from?
The thing about having ideas, the thing about like believing that you can make the world better. You know, one journalist said, you're such an idealist. Teresa Owen once said that to me. When I was a kid, I never knew what she meant. What does idealist mean anyway, you know? But like now that I know, I truly am, you know. And I was like, I just have this vision that like people want, I have this optimism that everybody wants the world to be better. I have this optimism that everybody will align to make the world like be better and make things be better, not only for now, but for tomorrow, for the kids tomorrow, and everything else, you know, because of where we are as a country. But then you realize that like that's not always the case. You know, you realize that money is a huge motivation for people, and it's not about what have I done that counts, you know, people, because then you realize that those are not people who fighting for their ideas or ideologies to count. Those are people who fighting to actually like live off other ideologies of, this is the status that money gives me, this is the status that a position gives me, this. So, you know, then you have this.
Listening to that song, there's a serious irritation.
It is.
I mean, you are furious.
It is, because in all that, you know, when I talk about broadcasters, when I talk about, I'm like, you guys should be helping us. You guys should be building us. You know, we should be creating an industry where the artists can survive. When we talk about even marketing, and we talk about manufacturing, and we talk about retail, and we go, so where is, one can go, yeah, it's white people, but it's global people that own a lot of what's happening. And we aren't open, and the political powers aren't opening the door. The broadcasters like literally like aren't opening the door for the talent. And the world is moved by creatives. So if you don't feed the creative, basically, you will not be able to actually see any fruit from it, right?
So why are blacks fools?
Because at most times, at that, well, specifically, but because the blacks are fools, but we're better than that, is because I look at the guys that I feel are our leaders at that time. I look at the guys that we feel like have the power to move us forward. And all the time we speak to them, they literally like they don't care about development, you know. I'll go as far as saying that it's one thing for let's say a BE that literally like goes buy into a global company, buy into a global chain. Where's the BE that talks about like the African idea? And then the African idea goes, well, maybe the African idea doesn't have enough funding. So because it doesn't have enough funding, that's where like the whether it's white capital, whatever you want to call it, then plugs into that. Because once you build the African idea, that's when you build the African pride. That's when you build the African patriotism. That's when the kids want to be African. But like as long as you keep on allowing the global idea to always grow, like kids kids always feel disoriented. They say, where do I fit in here? You know?
But maybe because of a very provocative title, there was a huge backlash.
Of course.
And then 2 years later, you made the most amazing music video.
Yeah.
Was that it was an answer?
It was. I mean, for me, you know, I mean, we in times where truth is trouble, you know what I mean? So, you know, if you want to move forward though, you got to let people know where you stand, right? You cannot like either be neither here nor there. You can't be safe. You got to let people know where you stand. And you know, I'm the nicest guy in the world, but I've heard like people don't like me and they anti me, not because I've done anything to them, because you know I'm truthful. It's because you know I sincerely want to make a change. You know, building it like a Slikours life was off my pocket, and it's employing like so many kids right now. I mean, I'm employing like, you know, 3 years old, we're employing like close to 12 kids, you know. I've had 2 acquisition, like 1 acquisition, and there's possibly another acquisition that's happening. We might grow like another extra 10, 20 kids. And you know, people go, so you know, I'm employing kids from the hood. You know why? It's got nothing to do with race. It's got everything to do with we do things for our culture. So these kids literally understand the music that like we resonate to, and the artists. So sometimes they best to kind of be in the positions to work there. But you know why? My investors are literally like invested in an African idea from an African kid, which is creating opportunities for other African kids. Now, for me, that's the BE that we need to build, where we need to develop African ideas, because those African ideas literally like cross the border on who they help, depending on what they are.
Do you believe, well, do you experience that black entertainment is a viable business environment?
I mean, I think that there's no such thing as black entertainment. There's no such thing as black industry, because we haven't created the right structures to make it a business. I mean, I'll be honest, you know, something that's smaller than our industry is the Afrikaans industry, but they themselves have created that industry so they can be able to live off it, whether it's through concerts, through music, or whatever else they do. But we don't have that. You know why? Because the industry literally is dependent on like other players to make it happen. And like we haven't, as black people, we haven't taken ownership of our industry.
Are you going to do that? Are you going to change that?
Well, look, Slikours Life is the biggest online platform right now, right? Slikours Life is speaking to various brands, and we're helping brands to direct money to black artists in an authentic and relevant way to support their content. I mean, there's something that was just trending right now with one DJ, with the euphonic DJ, and he out of his heart just found these kids, it trended, it's doing well. And like what we're doing now, we're placing a brand to probably support the music. So right now, this is the beginning of the translation of where African dreams, African aspirations, and African like ideas can start being invested in by the corporates that actually like make money off these Africans. You know what I mean? So it's a small thing. I'm not saying it's the biggest thing, but you know, you gotta literally start small. So so the question is, I am doing it.
Yes.
I am doing it, and I've been doing it. And when we started with Skwatta Camp and we were the biggest thing, it was an indication to me, because I was too young to know. It was an indication of the power that our culture has. It was an indication of, if we own the culture, this is what it would mean for our people. And if we own the culture, this is what it would mean when business wants to interact with our culture. We were once supposedly supposed to be signed by an international label, when this international rapper came, Ludacris, and we did some stuff, and they took us overseas to try to meet up with Jay-Z at that time. And the only reason the deal never happened, they were like, you're big as artists, but you don't own the value chain. And that's what they're saying. We don't own the value chain. So right now, we got to start owning the value chain. And the first way we own the value chain is by us embracing the culture and saying that's our strength. And, when we talk culture, I mean, I'm not even going to talk rap or whatever, but you look at like the Ndebele, Lesotho people, you look at their fashion. Now Louis Vuitton is out there literally like creating like jerseys that look like the Lesotho stuff. You know what I mean? My thing is that why is that? It's because we haven't taken ownership of our culture. And when we do take ownership, we don't want to like put money in it and take pride in it. You know what I mean? So it's a big job. It needs more than me, but I need to wake up every morning and say that I am not only doing my part, but I'm leading the conversation.
You now have a 6-year-old son.
Yeah, he's a crazy mother, brother. Yeah.
How has he changed your life? Are you very involved in his life?
Highly involved. I see him every 2 weeks because I'm not with his mother. But I mean, he's got a stepfather, and he's had his stepfather maybe 7-8 months or so, and they live together. But he can, without me telling him, he calls, so his stepfather is white, so he calls his stepfather dad. I'm fully kind of integrated, right? And he calls his stepfather dad, and he calls me Baba. But he will come back to me and he'll go, Baba, I think you're my dad. So he's figured it out,
Yes.
because that's how present I am, in his life.
How has having a son changed you, do you think?
I think it just shows.
Does it make one grow
it shows me the urgency of fighting the ownership fight. It shows me the urgency of owning the story of our culture, because
for his and his generation's
they
sake.
need to be rooted into something. They got to look back and go, damn, this is what they did. We got to do better. We don't have that right. I mean, the only thing that we have is in politics, like, Nelson Mandela, all the time, this is what they did. But, now we got to, these kids need to look back and say, this is what these guys did with culture. This is how these guys took this brand, and this is what they did with it, and this was the connection of that, and that influenced the retail, because this is the merchandise or the clothing that they created. That influenced the outlets because this was the product that they started selling. These kids need to start having those stories from an African perspective, because right now we pick them up from we pick them from an American perspective. So for me, my son really has shown me the urgency of not waiting for tomorrow to do it. You're either going to jump in the deep end, or you're either going to go, I can't swim, I'm not sure,
And talking about his mother, you said you're no longer with her. You've had serious relationships.
Yeah.
And now you've got married.
Yeah.
What made you decide that Melissa was the one? I'm
a bit of a madcap, but a passive madcap. Sort of like my son, because I'm always, it's like I'm a mad scientist, I believe in things, and it kind of puts people in a fear. Maybe that was the thing even in my previous relationship, because I have these visions that this is what I'm gonna do, and I'm not sure, but I'm gonna do it. And sometimes if you're in a relationship with somebody who's going, yo, I just want to make sure that we got food in the house, and we got
stability,
security. Besides Melissa just being a great person, immediately when you're with someone besides your parents, that enables you to enable yourself, so you are enabled, enabled to tap in your greatest visions, dreams,
allow you to be everything you can
without questioning you. I mean, she knows that I literally walked out of an agency where what are the chances that I'd get anything better, because I'd never had the degree, I was a partner, blah blah. She knows I walked out of that just to follow this side thing. And although she's like, ugh, but she stuck it out, and it's grown right now, and and it's a growing business right now, and
how
that's
did
what it
you and
is.
she decide on how to get married? Because the cultural thing plays such a big role.
Yeah. Well, you know, I literally, I've got a strong belief that like my ancestors and everyone that came, I just feel like with this, it's like this network, you got like different poles in different countries, but like it's different poles in different lifetimes, you know what I mean? So I feel that there's a strong network with where I come from. I feel that like I am the ups and the downs of my family tree, and I felt that it was important to do things like in a cultural manner, and she's like, all right, cool.
What's her background?
She's I don't even, well, she's her father's side they Xhosa, but like she's also like a bit half. She's like colored, so but like because
But
of her.
she was willing to step into your world.
Yeah, her father passed away, obviously, or at least like this side. So she lives mostly. She's been living with her mother, who's very much on the colored side. So there wasn't very much sort of a resistance to kind of stepping into my world. Obviously, we're still respecting the closer aspect of it because she can't run from her bloodline. No matter what she looked like, she's still that.
Yeah.
So we got to balance that, and we got to also speak to her network, on her side, and do the right thing. Yeah.
And how are you going to create a home where you both and your families are at home?
I think the kids already, like, she's also got a daughter who's the same age as mine, same age as my son. So we create that environment, we create that environment. Culture is just a way for you to connect with your ancestors, but but human beings will be human beings. They will have their flaws. You'll see your flaws in your kids, you'll see your strengths in your kids, and it's about you. I always say, if you know that at 5 years old you were broken, or you had a huge crack, you gotta like start plastering that crack for your 5-year-old kid right now, so he doesn't it doesn't turn out the way it turned out for you. So essentially, we all got cracks, and the sooner we plaster ourselves, the better we become. But what like parents are supposed to do, that's why I feel that the presence in your kid's life is so important. What parents are supposed to do, parents will see the plasters of the cracks of their kids quicker, because it's a reflection of them. I mean, when your child is living with someone else, they might see it as a nuisance, or they might see themselves as, I'm just being patient with him because I just love him. But when it's your kid, you literally like, you obviously love him, but like you already know the cracks, so you switch him off quick. You go, hey, you better stop with that right now, because I know where that's going to end up, because I ended up there. So you better stop. You know what I mean? So that's why for me, I'd never not like be present in my kid's life, any of my kids' life, because I can't be preaching that I believe the world can be better, but I am not fixing an individual that's a part of the world that actually is my seed. You know what I mean? So, you got to start at home before you go out and speak in the streets,
Yes. So thank you so much. I have really enjoyed this. And all of the very, very best.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Okay. Until the next time then. Bye-bye.
Peace.